Hello, Internet. Yes, this is Colin McDowell. You're here for another APB webinar with me, the crazy guy with the bad haircut. And we're going to talk about mostly the DC-2, our latest APB plugin. That's the DC-2 Dual Compressor. It's awesome and amazing. Shall we get into it? Yes, we shall. I believe you're seeing this fine slideshow I've prepared. So we're going to go over some finer points of the DC-2. Don't worry, but we're going to cover the basics of the APB as well for anyone who's joined this webinar that has some questions about the APB or hasn't bought one yet. I'm sure there's a few of you out there, maybe. Okay, here we go. Anyway, the webinar. The APB, Analog Processing Box. We came out with this a few years ago, and it's basically a software-controlled analog processing system. You control it from plugins. The plugins, of which there are some here, we keep developing a growing library of plugins that are actually free to every registered APB customer. Because we figure as long as you keep liking the plugins, you'll use more channels, and eventually you'll just buy more APBs, and that's generally what's happened. So hot dang to that. And it is, of course, the world's first programmable analog processor. And why are we really here, though? We're here for this guy, the DC-2. Whoa, dual compressor. Oh, look at all those buttons and knobs. I want to get into that. Yes, I know you do. But let's just talk about what the APB is a little bit more. Okay. Yes, it's just a green box with a power button on the front. I know it says McDSP in the front, but McDSP is short for McDowell Signal Processing, not something else. It is an all analog processor inside. Yeah, it's just gotten some awards. Great fun. On the back, it just needs word clock and Thunderbolt. That's right, word clock and Thunderbolt. How does it work then? Look, you instantiate an APB plugin like any other plugin on AAX, AU, or VST3. But then the plugin just acts like a controller, and you turn the dials and knobs and switches and whatever, and it generates a overall control signal, which is then married to the audio signal. It's already come into the plugin, and it's sent over Thunderbolt into this box. That digital signal is converted to analog. The control signal, well, it's routed around the various components of your circuit, and we process the audio in the analog domain. After we're done processing it, we will then put it through no less than 3 different customized saturation circuits to make sure that if you get too loud, you'll just saturate in the analog domain as opposed to clipping digitally. And then we'll convert it back to digital, put it into the Thunderbolt cable, and bring it back to the DAW. Just like that. Operates like any other plugin. It's amazing, in my totally biased opinion. Okay, anyway. That's right, there was a shot of the inside of the box. So what I just said, look, at the very bottom of this image, there's the word clock BNC connectors there, and the Thunderbolt connectors are just to the right of it. So the audio comes in again to the Thunderbolt, goes into the first board. That's the Thunderbolt board. Then it goes into the middle board, the main board, when it distributes it to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 channels. This is an APB 16. And you can see almost the path there vertically for each channel as we go through it. Comes back around through the middle, back down, back into the main board, converted back to digital, back into the Thunderbolt board, and then back out of the Thunderbolt cable, back into your computer. Why are there 2 Thunderbolt ports? Well, because you can daisy chain them together. Well, how many? Well, Apple limits us to 5, so up to 5. So yes, if you had an APB 16, you could daisy chain up to 5 of them together for 16 times 5. Wow, that's 80 channels of analog processing all under software control. Oh, it's so cool. Hot dang. How about that hardware? Yep, got to have some bullet points to make sure I talk about everything. It is a premium analog system, very fancy, 32-bit converters. It supports all the flavors of Thunderbolt 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's got patented McDSP technology in it, and it's made right here in California, USA. And about that software, well, like I mentioned, we support all the major plugin formats. Oh my gosh, I messed up. All the major plugin formats. AX, AU, VST3. It's a plugin, so you got full session recall, you got presets. We also give you sample accurate automation, and we have automatic delay compensation. Right? Great. There's even a low latency mode for Pro Tools customers. That's great. And now for a flyby of all the plugins, well, actually most of the plugins that are included with the APB. Here we go. There's the chicken head compressor. Oh yeah, good for slamming drums, also great for vocals. There's a C673A, very gentle, touch up your mix kind of compressor. We got the C18 compressor, the L18 limiter, the LMU tube limiter. No, there are no tubes inside, but we have a tube model, which we then use and control in the analog domain to give you a tube-like sound. It's so cool, I know. Okay, great. We also have the MU tube compressor. Oh, we also have the LMU mixer. Boy, we should make some more mixers, shouldn't we? Maybe. There's the MC3 3-band analog, but this is one of the only multi-band analog compressors on the planet, and this one happens to be under total software control and wholly recallable. All the other features I rambled out. There's the KD1 Connect drive, nominated for a Tech Award a couple years ago. It's customized saturation circuit with a bunch of controls, as you see there, to drive your signal into the saturation region of our compression circuit to keep it there with some kinetics control. It's pretty cool. We got the Royal Q equalizer. Wait, what? The APB does EQ? Actually, the APB will work with an equalizer. Oh, there's a horrible echo going on. Alan, oh, sorry, Alan. Make sure you have your audio and your Zoom routed to only your headphones, I think, or not out of your speaker, because it might loop back into your computer that way. One of the folks that's also supporting me will be helping with that. Okay, for all you asking questions, I feel badly. I have your Q&A panel up. I will answer all the questions towards the end of the presentation, but I will get to it. Okay. Okay. But anyway, Royal Q. And yes, I agree. Low latency mode for other DAWs would be great. Royal Q. There are no equalizer components sort of in the APB, but we can give you an equalizer where we can make any kind of curve we want, because you definitely can do that in the digital domain. But then we can take the APB analog circuitry and make a customized output stage for whatever it is you're doing with the EQ topology that we've chosen to give you some finely crafted EQ like the Royal Q. So you get the best of both worlds. You get a very clean digital equalizer, but you get the bonus of that analog output stage, which makes a lot of outboard EQs sound great. Hope that made sense. Anyway, there's also the Royal Q compressor limiter. That's right, a compressor and limiter in one channel of APB processing. Wow. This is the tape. That's right. We modeled analog tape with an analog system. That's pretty good. The world's only analog model of an analog tape machine. Wow, that's kind of a weird thing, but we got it. There's Bob bass optimized bias. If you think your mix has bass, it doesn't unless it has Bob. We also make now a surround version of the Royal Mu and Royal Q. So if you're doing your Dolby Atmos or just your 7.1 or whatever you're doing, you can do it with a 2 sets of Royal Mu compressor limiters set this way. All the black knobs there, they're actually analog trim. So awesome. You can also adjust all the key signal levels as well. You can gang different like compressors like left, right, center, and side together into one compression, key, and other ones can operate independently. So cool. But today we're talking about the DC-2 Dual Compressor. And it's amazing, right? Yes, we can stare at this amazing glamour shot all day, or we could go to a Pro Tools session and check it out. Let's do that. This is the APB. I'm Colin McDowell. Now we're going to talk about the DC-2. How are we doing? Good, I hope. Here we go. Let's do a control walkthrough, and then I want to show you some different sounds out of just what the compressor models do, and then we'll get into the rest of the aspects of the plugin. Okay, from left to right, there's a purple compressor, there's a gold compressor. This is for the left channel, and there's a purple compressor and a gold compressor. This is for the right channel. I think you guys all get that. Yes, if you operate it in mid-side mode, then this is the mid channel, and this is the side channel. Let's stay just in dual operation for now. You can link all the controls together, so they'll all operate together, and that's great. Get your standard stuff. Compression threshold, the point at which compression starts, attack and release. You have a makeup gain, got a compression ratio from, a little over 1 to 100. You have a dedicated high pass filter with flexible frequency. We also have an auto release function. This does not actually override the release control. The auto release function will actually just take whatever you're dialing up here and will automatically lengthen the release time based on how much signal is going into it. So the more you push into it, the longer the release time will get by some amount, which you can fuss with, which is why the release control is still adjustable, even if you hit the auto button. Great, fine. We have 2 other controls here. We have a knee control in case you want to give it a certain knee size as you go from the onset of no compression into compression. That transition point there you can make smoother, i.e. the compression knee. Well, you control that as well. You can also, when this button is not pressed, it is a peak detecting compression system, or you can push the RMS button and you can have it do a root mean squared, like a window of signal that you'll use to trigger the compressor. All right, okay. Other stuff. You can bypass or enable any of the compressors. You can choose a side chain if you want to listen. You want to trigger the compressor from a side chain. You could also listen to whatever's triggering any of the compressors in the plugin. Okay. That's the basic compressor controls, but there's more here. Look at this. What's this split balance stuff going on? Yeah. Right now, the compressors are in series. It's the purple compressor going to the gold compressor. I can show you that here on the flow tab, flow page of the center section. Look at that. Compressor 1, compressor 2. Purple, gold. Purple, gold. That's great. I have a balance control. Why would I need to balance it if they're already in series? Well, maybe you want to hear more of the first compressor or more of the second compressor. You can do that with the balance control. For those of you that are really thinking it through, wait a minute, Colin, that means I could also take the balance control, crank it all the way to number 2, and then I'd only hear the compression number 2. It'd almost be like compressor number 1. The purple compressor was like the side chain compressor, compressing the side chain to sort of pre-treat the side chain. And then the second compressor was using a pre-treated compressed side chain to do more compression. Oh, that would be so like flexible. Yes, it would. Good luck figuring it out. Okay. Or we can split them. Now we have the purple compressor and the gold compressor operating in parallel. And now when I do the balance control, now it's just a flat out mix. Either I'm getting more of the gold compressor output or more of the purple compressor output, or more of the gold compressor output. The other buttons down here, we have some EQ that comes with each compressor. So if I put it back out of split mode, see I get 2 bands of equalization that I can put before or after the analog processing. And by the flow diagram, you can see here, look, it's before compressor 1 and compressor 2, or I could put it after. Hot dang, let's leave it before for now. And I have 2 bands here. The bands can be a parametric or a shelf shape. You can move it around. I can type in the values here if I want to. That's great. Or I can actually click the values and move them this way. Get the idea. If I put it in the split mode, whoa, now there's 2 sets of compressors. Why? If I go back to the flow, yeah, it's because there's 2 sets of outputs. One out of compressor number 1, the purple compressor, one out of compressor number 2, the gold compressor. So I get 2 sets of EQs that I can route before or after the compressor. Yes? Okay, hot dang. And therein I can get different tones with my gold compressor and my purple compressor to mix and match them. Oh, hot dang, what's not to like? But wait a minute, there's also the SAT EQ enable and disable. Well, what is that all about? Well, EQ buttons. See, I can disable the EQs if I want to, or I can enable them. There's also a SAT page. What's this all about? There is a SAT EQ. It is not EQ for the tone of the saturation. It is for causing the saturation to be more sensitive to low frequencies or high frequencies. I just dial up here. Look, I want to have the saturation be really sensitive to the low signals. I want it to be really sensitive to the mids or the highs. I can do that. No, because in a split mode, I actually have a saturation EQ for each, the compressor 1 and the compressor number 2, the purple compressor and the gold compressor. Everybody with me? Hope so. There we go with that. So, and also, there's not just one kind of saturation. We got a bunch. We got some soft saturations. We have some saturations, I guess like the medium one. We have a few other ones like stun and ouch, because someone has a sense of humor. His name might be Colin. And even after you select a certain saturation type, you still have the saturation adjust control, which I can type in a value here if I wanted to, or I can just click it and drag it. So I can actually increase the amount of signal going into the saturation circuit, but then I'll turn it down after the saturation circuit. So I'm basically getting more saturation without modifying the overall output level of the track. So I can just audition some saturation, more or less, without having to worry, oh, is it louder, softer, louder, quieter? It's just more or less saturation that you're auditioning. Did that make sense? So that was, in a nutshell, what is the DC-2. There's also, oh, I skipped the whole thing. It's a compressor. Did I mention that? Good. Okay, we talked about the EQ, talked about the flow, talked about the saturation. Let's go back to the compressor stuff, shall we? Yes, let's. I walked you through all the standard controls. Threshold, attack, release, frequency, ratio, frequency for the high pass filter, ratio. Great. But wait, there's still more. When you press this knee control here, and let's pick on this setting right here. If I just maybe bring this threshold up for a second, maybe make the ratio a little bit less. So I'm just looking at the curve for the purple compressor. This is the gold compressor. We're not talking about him right now. The purple compressor, compressor number 1. If I choose a knee, I can also choose a knee size. It can be a 3 dB width, or 6 dB, or 12, or 18. And I hope you can see on your screen that when I do that, the knee size here, increase the ratio a little bit more. The knee size here changes. That's pretty sharp. The knee size is only 3 dB. You have 6, 12, 18. This is available in any of the compressor models we offer. Cool, cool. And these shapes are cool because then that transition from no compression to some amount of compression can actually make it more gradual or less apparent. That way it doesn't sound like you're compressing, it just sounds like you somehow mixed the signal or recorded it really well. And who wouldn't want to have that? Okay. All right. Then how about what RMS? Well, RMS is like a root mean squared. It's like a window. Instead of like looking at just the peaks, if I enable the RMS button here, now I can choose from a variety of window sizes. Anywhere from 5 milliseconds, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 500. I can also choose a mix of the peak signal and an RMS signal that has a 50, 100, 200, or 500 millisecond window. Interesting? I hope so. Why would I like RMS in the first place? Sometimes signals just have peak information that's not, I want to say it's relevant to what you're trying to do, but it's just not helping you get the compressor sound you want. So by choosing an RMS window of either a very small size or a larger size, you can have the compressor react to that window of data as opposed to that one single peak that might be jumping around too much and making your compressor kind of just do something you don't like. Hope that makes sense. Okay, the high pass filter, which there is a dedicated one, in every one of the compressors, but let's focus on the purple guys one. You can choose different shapes of the high pass filter, like a 6 dB, a 12 dB, or a 24 dB per octave high pass filter. You can also choose some band pass filters that we simply call 1X and 2X. High pass filter looks like this. You're cutting off the lows, just passing the highs, so it has this kind of a shape. Band pass filter looks more like this. And we have two sort of, if you will, widths. 1X is something like this, and 2X is even a little bit more narrow. If you just want to cause the compressor to key in on like the kick drum or an annoying part of the vocal or something like that, you can do it here. Then there's more high pass filters, and these ones from HP plus M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, M6. These ones are all 12 dB per octave high pass filters, but they all have a modification. And that's that they emphasize a certain portion of the mid or high mid frequency range, just enough to cause the compressor to be more sensitive to those groups of frequencies by about 3 or 4 dB. Why would I want that? Well, sometimes you're using it on like a master track and you're kind of like, yeah, the mid-range is kind of bugging me. I just want to have the compressor be a little bit more responsive to the mid-range. The compressor is still going to compress the entire signal, but it'll be a little more sensitive to some of those mid-range signals. Hope that makes sense. Or more commonly, I think, is a vocal. People, when they sing, if they have like I'm singing my song and then I hit the notes I can hit really loud. Oh, yeah. Those notes that can hit really loud are generally in some specific frequencies. So you can have a modified high pass filter shape, which will allow you to find that portion of the spectrum that the vocalist is just louder at. You can cause the compressor to compress a little bit more when the vocalist is singing in those frequency ranges. That makes sense? Hope so. And then the big guy, oops, back to the comp page. We have 3 types of compressor models in this one APB plugin. You have an optical, a VCA, and a FET. You can probably go on the internet and find out what kind of circuits these look like or how they're done. That's great. Let's just talk about what they sound like in my first audio example. Yes, Colin's finally going to shut up and hear the dang plugin. Sorry. Let's leave it on this page for now, and let's listen to these drums with the VCA compressor. Okay? Headphones at the ready? Let's hear it. Oops. Oh my gosh, Pro Tools. Okay, I am just throwing down a very low threshold. I have a lot of makeup gain, and I have the default attacking with these times. I'm not using the high pass filter or RMS or any shape. I have the ratio all the way to 100 maximum. And you can see the response curve right here of the compressor. It's just a flat line. Great. So I'm just crushing it, and you can hear some of the room tone. I'll bypass it and play it again. Here we go. I'm just compressed it a bunch, and I've turned it up a lot, so I hear some of the room tone. I'm hearing some of the reflections of the drum kit off the room it was recorded in combination with the drums, because I've compressed the drum signal enough so that those peaks are quieter, and all those reflections that are happening around the drum set are at a volume that I can appreciate and I can hear in the output of the compressor. What if I switch to the FET? Well, I'm going to go back to VCA. I'm going to switch between the VCA and the FET. Listen for the difference. And the FET. Back to VCA. What you might hear is it almost sounds like the FET one is a little bit louder, or I hear a little bit more of room tone coming from the FET. Now, I'm using the same attack and release times, but I have a different compressor model. In this case, I've gone from the VCA, which is like your very even amount of compression across the entire dynamic range, whereas the FET one's like, as fast as I can, I'm going to get there. Here we go. So the FET is coming in and crushing the signal and then recovering even faster based on its model, whereas the VCA is a very even coming in and a very even recovery. So the VCA might sound a little bit quieter at the same output with all the same controls, whereas the FET is a little louder or has a little more louder, maybe a little more punch, as they might say. Not sure you want to go with that, but definitely hear more room tone. One more time, FET versus VCA. If you want to check with your ears, you can also see I have these two compressors. They are in series. Purple one first, followed by the gold one. I have the balance at 0, so they're both just getting even treatment. But you can see in the meters here, or here, when I go to the FET model in the purple compressor, because some of its release is so fast, it's actually creating more signal level. So the second compressor, which has a threshold hovering here at 0 dB and doing nothing else, you can see it's actually causing the second compressor to kick in just a little bit, because the FET is in fact louder because it's recovering faster. It's not that it's applying more gain to anything, just that its gain reduction is attacking and releasing even faster because that's the model it has. One more time. VCA. Okay, back to VCA. Let's now compare what the VCA sounds like and the optical, or the opto. What's going on? Well, look at the classic dogtail curve of the optical compressor. By the way, our optical compressor model lets you still choose if you want to have, almost no compression or some crazy amount like 100-to-1 compression. We'll let you have that even though you're inside the optical model. But the optical model has this dogtail effect where it's going to only compress so far and it's going to kind of give up and almost go back to like a unity gain, right? Like almost, you see how the straightness of this line is almost parallel to this line. The compressor, it has a doing nothing, hits that threshold point. Now it's compressing some, and then it'll kind of roll out and almost go back to a unity kind of response. There's still a makeup gain being applied. So because the compressor is not compressing quite as much, we hear a little bit more of the, room, a little bit more volume coming out of the optical compressor when we compress it like this. Does this make sense? I hope so. Okay. Was that too much talking about like compressor models? Yeah, one more point. But whether you use, and you can also, change the type of compressor model. You can actually toggle it here, VCA, FET, optical, You can see the text here has the same color as the button. Okay, that makes sense. I like it. But everything else, knee, the RMS, the high pass filter, how you set up with the flow, the saturation circuit, all that in the EQ, all these other components, they are all independent. So if you want to have, I don't know, a FET compressor that still has an auto release or uses an RMS with like a crazy small 5 millisecond window, or a knee control that's actually 18 dB, you can do all these things and you can still be in the FET model. And then if you want to change it, you can change over to, oh, I hear that sounds like an optical. I hear that's going to sound like in VCA. All those options are available to you inside the DC-2. Okay. All right. Enough of the sort of, I don't know, dorky guy example. Let's go to hear some tracks that were actually prepared by people who work in the studio, not by a guy who spends most of his time typing code and entering emails. That's me. Okay. First one. Call this the drum rumble. This is our level check, so this one's a little bit louder. Here we go. Plugin is bypassed. And enabled. I like it. What do we do? Well, check it out. We're operating in split mode here. Just for the sake of fun, I have the balance all the way over here at the gold compressor, compressor number 2. We are crushing the crap out of it. It is the FET, but look at our EQ. We made it kind of mid-rangey and kind of sizzly. Both EQs are proceeding, compressor 1 and compressor 2, right? We're in split mode, so we're operating in parallel. And for saturation, yeah, we have, looks like sat mode saturation A with a 40% saturation adjust for even more saturation. Cool. Let's go back to here. Let's hear what the balance mode, what the balance control does, because I actually have 2 compressors going on. So I can actually audition 2 different things. Here's this compressor. Or the other guy. This is like the cleaner one. It's got a lot of extra low end. Or the crunchy one. Or somewhere in the middle. Bypass it. Woo! Drum examples. Actually, they're my favorite kind of examples for compressors because you can hear lots of things going on. We have like a very thuddy low-end VCA compressor. And then we have a FET compressor here that has, it's crazy amounts of, ratio. We're really trying to release really, really fast, but our attack is still kind of slow. So we get a sort of snappy sound. And then we're boosting like the mids and the high mids, and we're kicking it into a saturation circuit. And yeah, what's not to like? You with me? Okay. Again, there'll be Q&A at the end. And you can quiz me more. Bass guitar. I love bass guitar. Okay, first bypassed. What with the plugin? Same thing. Purple compressor. He's all thick and dark, and that's fine. The gold compressor. Kind of buzzy. I can blend them. They're both optical compressors I'm using. I got RMS in this guy and auto release. I go here to the comp page. I can see I'm using a really small window, 10 milliseconds, which is actually that's pretty close to what a peak might look like anyway. But I'm using that so it just is gently touching that bass guitar and keeping it at some level that I want it to be, despite whatever notes they're playing. Cool. The other compressor, it's just not, there's no knee, there's no RMS. It's got also a modest attack and release time. There's no auto. I'm gonna go over to the saturation section. Look at that. got soft B here. Check I dial this back here. Pulling back the saturation amount. I'm cranking it back up. Maybe I made it too sensitive to the low end. Pull some of that back a little bit. Let's decide, nah, let's just start the crap out of it. Checking my flow. Yep, I'm in parallel. You can actually bypass either compressor from the flow page as well. Back to my EQ. Yeah, this is cool. You don't always sit there and like listen to one compressor. You don't take the EQ. Yeah. Okay, sorry, I like that bass guitar. Anyway, get the idea. The DC-2 just isn't about, hey, look, dual compressors, that's cool. There's lots of other tone control with this EQ section that can be dedicated. If you put it in split mode, so I have two compressors operating in parallel. I have an EQ set up for one compressor and an EQ set up for the second compressor. That's all built into the plugin, right? If any of you are like super excited about doing parallel compression, I'm pretty sure after you split your signal and put through the different compressors, then what's it go to? Probably different EQs. Yeah, or at least EQ one of those tracks to really differentiate it from the other. Well, it's all built in here in the DC-2 in a plugin with presets and automation and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, okay. Moving on. Here are just some backing vocals. A great band from Canada. Here we go.
No, it's not enough. It's never enough for you.
That sounds pretty good. But you know what? Mid-side processing, sometimes it can do you a favor. I'll do it one more time. I don't want to talk. Sorry. I'll put the plugin in.
No, it's not enough. It's never enough for you. No, it's not enough. It's never enough for you.
One more time.
No, it's not enough. No, it's not enough. It's never enough for you.
Mid-side compression. You gotta love it. Or mid-side processing. Anyway, we're in mid-side mode here. I haven't linked the controls. So on this side, this is the mids. I just have the compressors are in series, but as I mentioned earlier in this webinar, I had the balance control cranked all the way over to compressor number 2, the gold compressor. Now the gold compressor is still triggering off of the output of the purple compressor, but I don't have to hear that compression. It's that my gold compressor now has a compression curve that's based on a signal that's already compressed a little bit. Why the hell would I do that? Sometimes your signal level jumps a little bit and you don't really want the compressor to respond to that part of the signal. You want to respond to like the overall body of work that is whatever level you're coming out of there. So there's a compressor in your side chain, in this case, the purple compressor, that's going to say, hey, here comes some spikes. I'm going to smooth those out. So the gold compressor, the compressor whose output you're only hearing, doesn't go, oh yeah, there was a spike, I did something. It just kind of goes, and keeps doing whatever it was doing before. Makes sense? It's kind of like a bouncer at a nightclub. Purple compressor is the bouncer at the nightclub. Keep out some of the peaks out of the key signal for the gold compressor so it can sound, you know, golden. Yes, no, maybe so? Cool, great. Okay. Moving on. That's pretty good. How about some DC-2 in that? Check it out. Got one compressor. Almost too much. Purple compressor. They're operating in parallel. Purple guy, super low end, scooped out the mids, has this sound. The other compressor. Other compressor, it's more slamming it. Again, look at it. They have the same kind of attack times, but the gold one's got a much faster release. It's also a FET, so it's more quick in grabbing the signal. Whereas the VCA one is the slow, even guy. Slow, even guy. Snappy guy. Slow, even guy. Snappy guy. So I can EQ the room. I can EQ the outputs of the compressor differently. I'm EQing pre-compressor. I could also post-compressor. I'm actually not even using any saturation, although I think some of you might have heard it when I went all the way over to, if I go over just to the beginning. When those toms hit, boom, the guy goes, thud. Hey, what happened? Oh yeah, maybe it was too loud. Maybe Colin made a mixing mistake. It happens. But I have no less than 3 saturation circuits inside the APB for every channel of processing. So before it goes back into my DAW in the digital domain, if I made it too loud, I will actually saturate in a nice, pleasant sound as opposed to clipping digitally. Oh, yeah. That's part of the beauty of the APB. I know people have lots of outboard gear and lots of knobs, and that's great. I wish I had more outboard gear too, probably like the rest of you. But for practicality's sake, if I'm going out of my DAW into some box, what's one of the number one things I have to look at, come back in, is I don't clip, because then it's going to sound like crap. So the APB mitigates this issue by having these saturation circuits that are perfectly calibrated to the output level that is expected in the analog to digital converter. So instead of like going, oh crap, I was too loud, and I get some digital clip god awful hash, I get a nice saturation that goes in here, generates some pretty harmonics, and then I convert that into the digital domain and take it back into my DAW. If you're wondering, well, how many bits are in those converters? I'm so glad you asked. 32, because 32 is more than 24. Oh yeah. Anyway, you with me? I hope so. Okay. Let's see, how are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good. Okay, let's do a few more examples that aren't guitar. I'm sorry, that aren't drums. In fact, they'll be guitar. That made a lot of sense. Anyway, okay, moving on. Without. And with. Without. What's going on? I have the compressors in series. I haven't pressed the split mode button. I have them mostly evened out, but I get a little bit favoring the the purple or first compressor more than the second compressor. First one's VCA, nice even attack kind of guy. Next one's kind of optical, so he'll compress for a while and he'll kind of give up with that dogtail response at the end. They have a knee shape. I can even look at what their shapes look like. Look at that. I can see how they line up with each other. That's cool. Love that graph. Look at the EQ. Cutting a little bit of the mids out, give it a bright top. Let's hear that again. Just bypass the EQ. The EQ is a nice touch. You might be thinking, boy, Colin, it's like some guy from Nashville did that for you. Yeah, he did. His name is Sean. He likes wind chimes. Remember, if you ever meet a guy named Sean in Nashville and you're working with him in the studio, he's a nice guy. If you want to tell him that you really appreciate his work, you should send him a wind chime. The bigger wind chime, the better. He loves wind chimes. I know it's kind of weird because they're noisy. I don't know how he works. That's probably why he keeps all his wind chimes at home and he works in the studio somewhere else. Anyway, I digress. Wind chimes. But see that slight touch of EQ after these two compressors operating in series? That is what makes just a little bit better. Yeah, I got the compressed signal, I got the strums and the body of the guitar and whatever chords are going out. That's all great. But a little bit of EQ goes a long way. And that's what the DC has. Just that 2 bands of EQ that can make the sound just right. All out of one plugin. Oh, yeah. Vocal. Bypassed.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die.
Okay, I get it. Anyway, with the compressor in.
Legends never die when the world is calling you. Can you hear them screaming out your name?
Screaming out your name. You can watch the purple compressor, the first one. These guys are operating in series. It is using the high pass filter with modification number 3. That will provide me some mid-range boost that happens to be ideal for just those notes. But then I can cause the compressor to compress just a little more, so I can, with that vocalist is getting a little bit louder, I can clamp down that one just a little bit more. And you can see the gain reduction meter is really kicking in for those sounds. And then that allows me to make it a little bit sizzly at the top. Maybe listening to it in this mix right now, maybe I made it a little bit too sizzly, but instead of having this loud vocal, and I'm also trying to like get some of the, sibilance or the intelligence of the, the sibilance or the, trying to make the vocal more articulate, like give it a little bit of a high frequency boost. I'm going to give myself a headache because I can compress it more when the person's also getting loud in the mid-range, which is what I'm doing here. One more time with that and with.
Legends never die when the world is calling you.
With.
Legends never die when the world is calling you.
Okay, there you go with that. That was a vocal. Let's do a couple more examples. Let me, just give me a second, folks. We're going to go like this. No. Hey, someone says he doesn't want wind chimes. I don't know who that is. Okay. I want to just check here what we're doing here. Okay. Just wanted to check that Q&A. No one's telling me to like hurry the heck up. Let's just do a couple of mixes now. Okay. So DC2 just on a 2-track mix like this one. All right. Bypass first. Win. Without. And win. What are we doing? There's that cool synth bass guitar-like sound. It's great, but it's super heavy, and I'm having trouble bringing the rest of the mix up. So I'll put it in split mode. I'm going to have the purple compressor. Look at how low that threshold is. You can watch it in the gain reduction meter here. It's really going after that synth low bass sound. I got that blended with another compressor that's kind of lighter and also giving me a little bit of, some boost there. Yeah, I'm kind of boosting it a little bit with the purple EQ as well, but in any event, I'll mix the compressors around. Trying to push down that synth bass. That's my brighter mix. Put them somewhere together. All right. Ooh. Someone was going for some saturation in the bottom end too. Maybe. I think we compressed it so far that even if I boost it here or I fiddle with the saturation adjust, I'm not sure if I'm going to get too much saturation because I've already compressed down a lot. But there's a lot of makeup gain there. Something to ponder. Of note, I sort of skimmed the Q&A over there. The saturation section, remember, it's dependent on you getting almost to the maximum level and hitting that saturation circuit, and then we'll let you adjust it. So if you do compress the crap out of it, maybe the saturation adjust isn't going to quite push it up there. Some of you might say, well, then make the saturation adjust go further. Well, maybe I will. But then you'll have to, put that in the comments so I know. Okay. Let's do another mix. Okay. Okay. Bypass first. And win. This is like not enough sugar. Bypassed. It's like more sugar. Yay! Again, I'm going to show that I'm in split mode, demonstrate the differences in sounds between the two compressor outputs. Kind of my buddy, low kick guy, my bright sizzly guy, somewhere in the middle. What times we got? Okay, I'm really cranking on examples here. Okay, last one, because it was just too much fun. We had a APB user. He sent us this mix, and this is a portion of the master from it. And well, let's just say he mixes one of my favorite bands, if not my absolute favorite band of all time. So I'm jealous. And sometimes I visit him or we have lunch somewhere, maybe in Toronto, and I go, wow, this guy's like so cool. I'm like probably like, messing up like his reputation by sitting here with him at lunchtime. And he said, that's okay, Colin, just put this bag over your head and it'll be fine. Oh, okay. And so I do. No, he doesn't do that, but it is pretty cool to hang out. Anyway, big rock mix. We're going to make it more energy and low end and more power. First bypassed. And with the DC-2. Out. Fun sad. Win. That low end is a little bit thicker, a little compressed, a little sizzly. There you have it. The DC-2. If it's not in your mix, maybe your mix sucks. You should buy some more APBs today. In my totally biased opinion. All right, let's go to the Q&A, shall we? Let's. Okay, I'm looking at some webinar chat, so I'm catching up on all the things. I'd like to also thank, before I proceed any further with this webinar, I want to thank Sean and Sabrina, who are my team behind the scenes. They're taking care of everybody here. If you signed in, you had some trouble or some other questions, I see they've already answered, like, 5 of the questions I've already posted. But thank you very much, Sean and Sabrina, for helping out. I'm going to start at the top of the questions and go all the way down. Okay, question number 1 from Hidero. I hope I'm saying that right. How about an ABC preset selection on the plugins? That would be very nice. And also low latency mode for other DAWs, please. So agree. Like a customized toolbar across our regular version 7 plugins and maybe our APB plugins as well. Let's throw in things besides like ABC preset selection, maybe things like, I don't know, a mix control, or maybe a high pass filter for APB plugins that don't have a filtering section, or maybe like, a headroom control. If you really just want to slam the cockpit and see what the saturation circuit sounds like, or bring it back. Yeah, I agree. We'll do that. Question number 2, Andrew Shaw. Are those saturations similar to Futzbox? That is a great question. I'll just be completely honest with you. When I dialed in these saturations, I did it by ear and without any reference. So I did not use Futzbox or Futzverb or any of the other saturation things we'd already done. I want to try to come up with something that was different, or at least operated differently. I think in particular the way the saturation circuits work, because it has a saturation adjust control, so you actually can drive and get more saturation without screwing up the levels. That was sort of a goal, and that's kind of what it's all about. So there you go. If you want, there's so many different ways to make a compressor or a saturator or an EQ. So I just did some more ways and crammed them into the DC-2. In fact, I'm surprised I narrowed it down to like, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 saturation modes. I did that, but I started with a lot more. If anyone wants to have more, though, you can always say, hey, it's software. Can't you add some more saturation modes? And I might say, maybe. Okay. Now talking to Thee. Any chance of making a version of the saturation circuit with a single compressor so we can use a saturation EQ on one compressor in cases where we don't need 2 comps and save us 2 channels in the hardware? That is a fair question, Thee. I will debate that one. If you do bring up a DC-2 on a mono track, it will use 2 channels. And if you bring it up with a stereo track, it is going to use 4 channels of APB processing. But definitely we could look at, I guess we call it the DC-1, and then, that would probably work. Okay, everyone heard it here. DC-1 sounds like a fine plan. Thea, if that floats your boat, great. If it doesn't, you can always shoot us an email. Just shoot emails to just support@McDSP.com if you have any further questions, and that'll get forwarded to me, and we'll try to answer all of them. Okay, on to Mark. Yes, a mono version would be nice. Replying to Thea's question. So there is currently a mono version of the DC-2, but it requires 2 channels of APB processing. Mark, I think what you're asking for is, hey, this is really cool. I like it. And you like the way the EQ and saturation all have come together. You'd like to see a mono version, a single compressor version of the DC-2. And what do you know? We can just call it the DC-1. Settled? Settled. Okay, great. All right. Ooh, Ray Ketchum. Yes. Okay, Ray. What can I do for you? Fair question. Ray is asking, and it's a reasonable question, how about a larger GUI in the middle? I think that's a fine idea, Ray. And he's talking about, here in the DC2, I've crammed it all into here. We have these tabs here across the bottom, and certainly you could probably take some of these, maybe have something like where if I don't click a tab button, you just get the meters. So we could leave that here and maybe have something, I don't know, some other, maybe like you click, I don't know, the DC2 logo, and then, or maybe the McDSP logo here, and then like something would appear along the bottom here, which would have all the comp, EQ, flow stuff all laid out beneath you, so you could look at that while still looking at the meters up here. Is that maybe sound about what would you like, Ray? If not, shoot me an email and tell me that I'm wrong. But for now, I'll take that request as that seems very doable, where somehow we allow you to just look at the big meters here, and you click some button here, and then like information displayed in the comp, EQ, flow, and SAT pages can be shown in some additional window down here. That's fine. Folks, while I'm answering questions like this, look, the APB is an analog, hardware processor, but it's controlled by software. So if someone says like, hey, I wish you had a mono version of this, or a single compressor version of this thing, or DC-1, which we just talked about, or someone says, hey, I wish I had like a bigger display here at the bottom. This is all very doable because it is software. It is a plugin. McDSP's been doing software plugins for like 27 years. I've made most of those. So yes, I'm definitely down for customer feedback and making the products better. That's how we carry on and move upwards and all the other fun stuff. Okay, great. Next question. Rex, differences between the saturation models. Okay, that is fair question because I probably glossed over it too quickly. A great question, Rex. Okay, look, it's just called soft AB, sat AB, stun and ouch. It's from the gentlest to the hardest. They all work on the premise that whatever the signal is going to saturate at, I don't know, to get too engineering, if you ever look like an op amp, right? An op amp has like some saturation region that usually hit into, right? It has like a linear response, input equals output. And then at some point it rolls off. It has some kind of like, almost looks like a compression curve, sort of. But some of them kind of like have like an angle and some of them like are totally flat. In this case with all these, I made all the compression or saturation, curves round off. So they're totally flat, like as if it was like a very high compression ratio, if you will. But then it's from soft A, B, sat A, B, stun and ouch. It's like such a more and more aggressive saturation response. So I'm not trying to like move around like the saturation region or make it bigger or smaller. I'm just trying to make that where that transition from I'm doing nothing to hey, I'm saturating. I'm trying to make that change or that transition just be more aggressive with each successive one that you choose. I hope that answers your question, Rex. And for everybody else here, yes, I am surprised. I said this before that I narrowed it down to 6. I think Futzbox has like 10. I could probably come up with like 50 of these, different kinds of curves. It's just that I got to find the ones that are different enough to have a different kind of sound. But if people like the ways these sound and they want to have some other ones, bring it on. Again, it's software. McDSP in our 27-year history, because I'm an idiot, we've had three paid updates in 27 years, if you didn't know that. And for those of you who have the APB, yeah, you've had it. If you bought it when we first came out with it, that's like 5 or 6 years ago. Have you paid for any software updates? No, you haven't. In fact, we've given you a bunch of free plugins because that's how I can operate. I think the APB is a huge investment. It's super cool. But in order to, make people comfortable with it, we're just keep pumping out plugins. So we got DC-1, we got a new display mode for the DC-2, other stuff. Bring it on. This is what I'm good at. I'm not good at ice hockey or making like, I don't know, records for rock bands like Rush. I'm just, like a guy in a cube, but I'm really good at, making plugins. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, Rex. I hope that helped that interest you. And you're right. If there's no mention of that in the user manual, I am the guy who writes the user manuals. We'll let something out. We need to make some additions. No, we're recording this webinar. Maybe we'll take some of the things I'm saying and we'll stick that information back into the user manual. Okay. Okay, Mark, it sure is a great bus compressor, that's for sure. I agree, Mark. It's super cool. Almost as cool as you, but there you go. Yeah, bus compressor. 2 S's in bus, by the way, everybody. Okay. Andrew, not particularly DC related. A hardware control surface that we'd recommend for tactile control of the APB. I do not have a recommendation at this time. We do, however, create for the Avid has like their S6 or S4, S1 or whatever they're doing. We do make customized page tables for all those layouts. For those of you that use like Cubase or other DAWs, there is like a way you can actually pre-program how the layouts work in those control surfaces. But again, the APB is controlled by a plugin, whether it's AAX or AU or VST3. They're just plugins. So if you have a control surface you like, it's going to work with it, because that's how the plugins are supposed to be made to work. Does that make sense? I hope so, Andrew. But so there you go. Very non-partisan answer to you. But yeah, they're all going to work great. Actually, if you see, there's a guy named Ivan. He's like an influencer. He did a video about the DC-2 like a couple of days ago, and he didn't have a control surface, but he had like a touch pad, but it was about the size of like a 19-inch rack mount thing, and it had a handle on top of it. So he'd carry around this touch control surface, and he'd be touching the screen there. So it wasn't quite like a tactile thing and turning knobs, but he sort of had look, it's my piece of outboard gear, but on this flat panel in front of me, I could just pick it up and whoop, 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 do it. It was pretty cool. I did not know what that particular product was named though. You could probably ask Ivan. Okay. Oh, Peter Bond. Yes, Peter Bond. Peter, super APB customer, early adopter. Yeah, I agree, Peter. These two turned out really good. And yeah, we're making more all the time. I guess everybody should know. Chris Daniel did the KD1, the kinetic drive saturation plugin, because he's actually an expert with saturation. And there's two guys named Chris and Glenn that really designed, the brunt of the APB, hardware parts. I just tell them what I want, but they sort of, turn it into what it's going to be. But I do write most of the plugins otherwise. And so, yeah, if there's other things you want, yeah, just bring it on. Oh, Pascal, yes, you'd also like a DC one. Okay, cool. On the stat panel, there's a number. Oh, yes. So, yes, I'm sorry, Rex. The number next to this number is the saturation adjust. So if you want more saturation, you can just touch it. I just touch I can type it in here, 45, whatever. Or I can just sit there and then you turn it down or turn it up, and I can get more or less saturation, but I will not affect the overall level of the signal. And if I've left that off the manual too, Rex, well, you caught me. Thanks for reading the manual. Maybe I should have you proof our manuals from now on. Thoughts? Okay, but yeah, bring it on. We could add more information in the user manual, and basically it's the 100, plus 100 minus 100%. Is because I didn't want actually to sound like a dB or decibel range to it, because it might change if we add more saturation models later or something else. Okay. Hope that answers your question, Rex. Back to Pascal. These two, can we match the color and the curve of the other APB comp? I'm not sure what you mean, Pascal. Do you mean that if I'm in the EQ curve here, and I like what I put it in split mode, I like what I'm doing, can I match these guys up so they're different? I don't have them linked right now, but maybe I could. Is that what you're asking, Pascal? Please chime in, Pascal, if I've answered that question or not. I'm not sure you meant by the other APB comp, or maybe there's a color and curve you want to have from a different APB plugin. Please let me know. Okay, back to Thee. A DC1 is exactly what you want. You'd also like another free 40 channels of unlimited power. Don't have to worry about it, but for everyone else's sake, DC1 would be amazing. Thea, I agree. A DC1, I think, would be super. I like the idea. I appreciate all these questions to everybody, because that's why I do them partly. I like talking to people about our products, because that's lots of fun. Telling you about the rest of the people on the team, like Sean and Sabrina, Chris and Glenn and the other folks here. But yeah, I also like getting feedback and product ideas, because if you people are crazy enough to join me in a webinar, you're probably crazy enough to want some more features in the products, and I'm happy to have your feedback. So yeah, Thea, DC1 sounds like a fine plan. Okay, Giles or Gillies, I'm sorry if I'm screwing that up. Instructions to use the PDF for all APB plugins. That's a fair question. We do include a user manual with every APB plugin. So if you don't have an APB, but want to read more about how APB plugins work, you can just download the installer, and then when the installer installs the APB plugins, it puts inside, all the plugins go inside your applications folder in a folder called McDSP _APB. And inside there is each plugin in a folder. And within that folder is a user manual for each plugin, which covers the basic operation of the APB itself, as well as what is unique to that particular APB plugin. Hope that's okay. Yes, if someone's going to say you should have links to user manuals on your website, yes, or maybe on that customized toolbar that we're just imagining that's going to have extra controls like a mix knob and things like that. Maybe she'll also have a link to the user manual. Okay, can do. Back to Rex. You'd like a brighter text setting for more contrast in the central UI. Yeah, okay. I mean, maybe what we could do is have some kind of like button, or I guess I'm not promising this feature, folks, or Rex, but if we had like like a customized toolbar, we had things like maybe a high pass filter, a mix control, headroom control. Maybe we also had some things like, hey, here's a setting to like, modify the contrast or something for the text parameter settings. Because yeah, I'm sorry if it doesn't look bright enough, and we can work on that. Although looking at it now, I see what you're saying. I think it's the contrast. I think, and Rex, just to be clear, shoot it to me in an email, please. But is it the text readouts of like the purple and the gold text, or is it the other text? Just let me know, or is it just whatever? If you clarify that in email, again, put that to like support at McDSP.com. I'll get a ticket, get flagged, and get sent to me. I love feedback. Thank you very much. Peter Bond, another vote for the DC-1. Okay, got it. And then back to Rex. Oh, you checked out the C18. Yeah, the C18 is pretty cool. The APB has changed my mixing in my rack and is looking a little sparse these days because of it. Yeah. Well, thanks, Rex. I'm not sure it's pure genius. I know some genius people, but that's me. I just like doing what I'm doing. I think that over the 27 years doing McDSP, it's been a lot of fun. I like doing the work. I like talking to customers. I like scrutinizing things like dynamic range compressors. I'm like, WTF? It's like, who would care about that? But all our clients do, and it's a joy for me to just sit down and ponder how to make things like Bob, or take the C18, which by the way is heavily derived from Compressor Bank, the first compressor that came out like in the 1999, and the C18 uses a lot of that type of technology. It has like the bite control, it has like a knee control. It's cool. It has knee control. Wait, I know it has a bite control anyway. Geez, but yeah, I just like making these products, and that if you like your job, you never work a day again in your life. And I think a lot of you out there who have had success, mixing, making records, as we used to say, you probably like your jobs too. And I hope that the APB has made your job more fun and more enjoyable. And yeah, here's another 27 more years. Woohoo! Okay, thanks, Rex. I guess thanks everybody. If there are no other questions or comments, yeah, I see we've Sean or Sabrina has mentioned how if you have other feedback you want to send to support at McDSP.com. Oh, there's a quick video that we have how to find a user manual. Hey, that's cool. I didn't know that. And there's more information at McDSP.com or McDSP.com/APB. Gosh, what else? If you haven't bought an APB, currently we're offering like I think $500 off on either unit, either the 8-channel or the 16-channel unit. And we're also offering a free everything pack if you buy it for a limited time. For those of you who already have an APB, you should have received a notice to get an APB, to get an everything pack at a super crazy discount. We appreciate all your support for these many years. Everybody else, I hope I answered all your questions. Rex, Mark, everyone that's in there. Gosh, all the answers have gone away, but everyone asked questions though. Thank you, Hydrero, Andrew, Glenn, everybody, because so basically my action items are a DC-1 and a different larger display at the bottom of the DC-2. Yeah, I like it. It sounds great. Literally sounds great. It will, and it'll look great too. Okay, but I guess that's all for me then. How long did I go? Wow, a little over an hour. Okay, well, hope you enjoy everybody crazy. Talking too much or keeping anybody up too late. But for everyone that hasn't tried an APB, your local dealer, at least the APB dealers that we have, they're also listed on our website. They should have demo units, or we can get you one. If they don't have one, contact us here in the office, and we can, talk about getting you a demo unit somehow. For those of you that have bought an APB, thank you very, very much for your business, and thanks for believing in this crazy product we come up with. And well, here's to making more APBs and APB plugins. Woo! Okay, thanks everybody.